up, everybody? This is Benjamin from Boy Silver Productions, and we are here with Rick again today, and Homies Helping Homies. Rick, you want to introduce our guest today?
What up, everybody? How you doing? So, I'm Rick, as you guys know, and this is Joe. The way I met Joe was online when I was planning my trip out west via bicycle, dragging my little chubby dog with me. That never manifested because I didn't get only but 20 miles outside of city limits or whatever. Anyways, we met online. He was still out in Cali. I was tapping him for information, resource, trying to see where I could possibly go. Then when I ended up in Roanoke, he just happened to be here, and we're both into anarchism, so we definitely love to kick it, and we've been kicking it ever since then. With no further ado, here's Joe.
My name's Joe, or Joey, he, him pronouns. I live here in Roanoke, Virginia. I'm not born here, but basically raised here. Moved around a lot with my parents as a younger child, and then settled here in the Roanoke Valley around probably 6th or 7th grade. So this would be the late 90s. And basically raised here ever since. Moved away about 10 years ago, first out to Denver and then out to Oakland, California, just to kind of get some perspective and not have the same small city, upbringing that seems to limit so many people in this world. And I am passionate about building a better world and ending the exploitation and patriarchy and bigotry and repression of capitalism. And I think that anarchism is probably one of the best frameworks that we can use to do that. And I think the beauty of anarchism and of collectivism is that there's so much versatility of thought that we can kind of put into these structures that we're all struggling in the same direction, and having a broad spectrum of thought and idea in the end of the day kind of helps everybody achieve the same goal, as long as we're all fighting in the same direction instead of fighting each other.
Amen.
So one of the things amen. A couple of the things that I do here in Roanoke, I work in the restaurant industry. I'm not going to tell you guys which restaurant I work at, because one of the things that I'm doing in the restaurant industry is labor organizing. So I'm talking about organizing labor unions within the restaurant industry, because the restaurant industry is actually one of the most exploitative industries in the entire world, especially in America. Second probably only to sex work, in my opinion, actually.
Front of the house, back of the house, this division needs to end.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Preach. Say it louder. The only division that matters in this world, and that includes in the restaurant industry, is the division between the worker and the owner. And so bosses perpetuate that, and actually we outnumber them, and we make the world run, so we should run the world.
I think he's also saying you guys should start discussing how much you're all getting paid.
Yeah, actually, I am saying that. Start talking about how much you're getting paid. That's one thing that I am very good about leading in the restaurant that I work at, is discussion about pay. And so actually what is happening recently is the company has decided to up the tip out percentage that I give to both my host stand and my bar staff, because where I work right now, it was at pitiful levels. And yes, that means I have to sacrifice. That means I have to adjust my budget, because I'm going to be making, not significantly less money, but less money. And I think that's one of the things that you need to do to be a good revolutionary, especially a good white revolutionary, is be willing to sacrifice for those who have less than you.
Hell yes.
And then other than labor organizing, the big thing that I'm into is pursuing, how do I phrase this? Actually pursuing climate justice through food justice. So recognizing that the industrial agriculture practices that we use to feed the country and the world are absurdly wasteful and are predicated on artificial scarcity, when actually we have the ability to produce food in abundance in our own backyards, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our towns and cities. Doesn't matter if you're inner city and growing on your roof, suburb growing in your yard, homeless, growing next to railroad tracks. We can grow our own food, and it's easy.
Manicured lawns suck.
Say it louder. Say it louder. Rip up your turf grass and plant tomatoes. Do permaculture. Do community gardening. Do guerrilla gardening. Like it's easy, and so that's the kind of thing that I'm fighting for. And I'm kind of loosely involved in, there's an organization here in Roanoke called the Roanoke Regional Food Shed Partnership. They used to be called LEAP, which was a much catchier name. It's Local Environmental Agriculture Project. So you'll probably find resources about and like materials from them under both banners. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to send Ben links for this so that other people can like find and explore. And basically what the Regional Food Shed Partnership is it's a like horizontal organization of organizations who are dedicated to pursuing food justice, climate justice, teaching people about permaculture. They run the local community gardens. They run a charity kitchen that's basically like a bulk kitchen that anybody can go into and prep food. So like the local Meals on Wheels program uses it. They use it as an instructional classroom to teach middle school students how to like cook and prep food at home for free. It's a really cool organization, I think, despite the fact that it's reformist and liberal minded. And you're laughing, but you know exactly what I mean.
No, continue. You're good.
Like,
you know how I feel about the L word.
Yeah, it's very much like a progressive organization, is in that it exists, within the framework and the structures of capitalism, and is trying to alter the framework from within. Stop it. And that work is also necessary because abandoning the levers of power to fascists is deeply irresponsible, in my opinion. So despite the fact that reform is ultimately a liberal-minded, pointless concept, it's still a part of the broader strategy that like I'm a part of. So,
and also within the scope of what he's talking about, I completely understand the need for some help right now for those who are in need right now. And if that is the only means of resource, I am stating use it, but we also got to talk about ways to break from the system. Please continue, Joe. Sorry.
No, he raises a good point that like the reason that I support this network, despite the fact that it's not entirely in alignment with my views, is I just lost my train of thought completely. What did you say?
Because people are in need currently.
Yes. An imperfect solution. We can't let perfect be the enemy of good. And I'm perfectly fine with my part in like working with these groups towards a mutual goal, even if our end goal is not quite the same.
We're basically all trying to get to the same goal. But we're coming together like a river does, you know, with the tributaries or whatever, and they come together and we have the same goal, but we have to shift. We have structures in place that are helping people in this way, but then we need to shift those structures to help people in a different way. So we're just all coming together, and so I see exactly what you're saying and totally agree with it. But
I like the river analogy because on a river, there's both information and resources traveling upstream and downstream. And actually to go upstream takes more work, but is more necessary.
The only reason why I disagree with where we're starting to go with, and I'm just stating this for the interview purposes to be transparent, is because confluence takes away from the original purpose.
Oh.
You're talking confluence now, and I cannot go there. What I'm stating, and I'm just stating this for my own, because we will never fully agree, but we can at least agree to disagree.
Right.
What I'm stating is, yes, people need food right now, and if the only way they could get food is within the system, fine, but the system needs to be taken down. There's no compromising the fucking system, because the system's sole purpose is to maintain itself in any form and fashion that it needs to maintain itself. Everybody talks about how the system's flawed and failing. No, it's working exactly how it's designed. And you were also saying something about
it came back. The thought came back. This quote is often attributed to Lenin, but it probably wasn't actually his. The idea that the capitalists will sell us the rope to hang him with.
Right, said the Bolshevik who sold out the anarchists.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's still a good quote. It's still a good quote.
It's a good quote.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right. The capitalist.
Example. I know. I've read massive amounts of Shea, and I appreciate his points, but I also know he is problematic to some degree if anybody were to sit there and question those things.
Right.
I'm aware of a few things. So, yes. And weren't you saying something about your art, too?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's the other thing that I do is I kind of, I got involved with a little bit of like the protest art and street art scene in Oakland. And that's definitely not something I'm comfortable naming names about, but it was definitely like a good education in like how to do guerrilla art. So that's something I'm not doing here in Roanoke because that's illegal. But it is something. I can't even take myself seriously.
No, you're good. I'm learning some things, and I'm just like.
I do like spray paint art and screen print and marker. I am a fan of the band Fish, and I do a lot of art like to support myself, but also in support of that scene. As whitewashed as it is, and I freely acknowledge that it's very like.
I got an inside man trying to teach hippies how they're cultural appropriators and benefiting off of privilege they don't want to recognize.
That's kind of like one of the things that I'm doing is I'm using my art as like a conversation starter to kind of like get to know people. Like I'm not trying to make money on it. It's just a thing I do within the scene, alongside some of the like some of the other things that are happening in that scene. Like for example, if you want to poke a little more at it, there's and I'll send this link too. There's a Facebook group called Fans for Racial Equity, and the entire purpose of that group is to acknowledge that the like hippie jam community is white as fuck, and acknowledge that that perception itself is a barrier for bringing inclusivity into the community, no matter how much we talk about how we want to be inclusive. So the group is run by like a diverse, multiracial group of people. It's not white people in charge. It's it's Black and indigenous people of color teaching the white hippies with their own labor and their own time how to kind of break this like privilege and perception. And so I support them, but also at the same time like their work kind of intersects with my work in some pretty major ways. I think one of the reasons why I'm not more tightly involved with them is because I don't feel like they need me.
He knows how to stay in his lane.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that white people just generally need to kind of take a step back and learn.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think one of the most important things like that I try to remember as a white person is that it's not helpful. It's actually unhelpful and counterproductive for me to just come crashing in to like a movement or an organization or a cause, no matter how well intentioned my energy and my ideas are, because that can kind of disrupt and step on the function of the group in the first place. So like thinking back to like your river analogy, like erosion changes the course of the river. And so I'm not trying to erode what these groups and these people are doing, because then that changes their course. And so that's something that I think that like all white people need to be really careful about doing is
a lot of people, not just white people, need to learn to stay in their lane. I, for example, am trying to understand feminism better. In order for me to do that, I observe without stepping out and showing my male ass, i.e. staying in my lane.
This has been really great. Is there anything else you want to throw in there?
If you are here in the Roanoke Valley and you are without health insurance and you need medical care, go to the Bradley Free Clinic. It's just off of Franklin Road, just outside of downtown.
I think that we should kind of wrap it up here, and much love. We'll see you all soon. Later.
Peace.